Happy Tuesday, everybody. Look who's back. That's right. Amedeus is with us. Good to have you back, buddy.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Was had a nice little vacation. Am very refreshed now.
Good. Um, whilst you were gone, there was the NFL draft, which, there were a couple of taken. Not necessarily teams that I mean, Phoenix is in Atlanta. Bo is in Denver. There were some weird things that went on. Did you think that they would have six quarterbacks drafted in the first round?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think it was going to happen because a lot of the mock drafts we covered, it
Right.
had a lot of young offensive and a lot of quarterbacks, but we didn't really see a lot of these names like Penix and Nix
No.
going. So a little bit of a shock there. But I mean, at the end of the day, am I surprised six teams took a quarterback? Not really. We kind of expected it was going to go down like that. We just thought maybe they'd wait till later rounds, but everybody wanted their guy right away.
Well, I got I was getting the draft updates on my phone, and I got, um, the pick is in bit, and the Atlanta Falcons choose Michael Penix, and I'm like, did I miss the fact that they might have signed Kirk Cousins? Wasn't it Atlanta that signed Kirk Cousins to a multi-year deal? Um, Come to find out that Arthur Blank called Kurt and said, "Are you cool if we do this?" Kurt said, "Sure." He's not going to be the starting quarterback, and Arthur said no. So onward and upward. They picked Michael Penix, and I guess you're going to shelf him for a couple of years.
Yeah, look, I know a lot of people are confused about the pick, and they think it's weird that they signed Kirk and then drafted him. And a lot of people I even see think Penix is going to be the starter after two games of the season. But I think now I don't know if they should have drafted him so high. But then again, the way the first round went, obviously, maybe he wouldn't have been on the board by the time they got another quarterback. So I don't hate the pick because, look, Kirk Cousins is not a bad quarterback, but he's not going to be playing, 5 years from now. So
No.
And with the way Penix has been injured throughout his college career, it's probably best not to just draft him and throw him to the wolves in his first season. Let him sit behind the guy, learn some tips from Kirk, and then when Kirk's finally ready to hang up the cleats, you have your next guy. Maybe they're trying to do a Green Bay type situation there.
Right. A secession plan.
Yeah.
So Washington, on the other hand, ends up getting Spencer Rattler as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, which is funny because, they drafted Jaden McDaniels number 2, who, good friend of the show, Rye Cape, loves this guy, thought he was one of the best quarterbacks in the country this season. So definitely, a great pick for the franchise right down the street from you there, Jim. But I mean, I think he's going to be a great quarterback. He's definitely going to be starter, but hey, I mean, if they want to bring in Rattler, you never know with these kids, right?
Well,
maybe Daniels is the bus.
Yeah, I think the point I was making is all these quarterbacks go in the first round, 6, right? Spencer Rattler had a pretty decent, resume, and Washington signs him off the street. So I guess my point was all these quarterbacks being taken, one of them who was considered maybe a top 10 quarterback in most drafts, doesn't have to wait because he's now signed with Washington on an undrafted free agent contract. So there you go. Nothing like crazy, and this is nothing like it. So there you go. Speaking of that, let's go to Los Angeles, where the Lakers know they got bounced out of the playoffs. And now they have to make a decision on what happens with LeBron James. And of course, obviously LeBron has a big say in that. So, the Lakers president of basketball operations, Rob Pelinka, drops a little, bomb this morning saying, look, we wouldn't be adverse to taking Bronny James and making him a Laker as we move forward here. Uh, I don't think they have to do anything to entice LeBron to stay in Los Angeles, but adding Bronny to the team, um, I don't know whether that's going to get him to play more or, we know his dream was to play on the same team with his son. It'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah, I almost feel bad for Bronny just because,
Yeah.
like, really, it's easy to tell he's kind of being used
Mhm.
here for his father's dream. And then, once you play the one season with your father, what happens to his career once LeBron retires? I feel bad
Right.
for the kid because he's going to skip out on a college career after 1 year, and you're not going to have much to go for. You're going to get onto a team because it's where your dad is. And then once he goes, they have no obligation to play you or even keep you on the team. So what does your career look like afterwards? You could be a G League player for the rest of your life. So I feel bad for the kid. I think his best. I know when you want to play with your father, but you also got to think about, do you want a somewhat 10-plus year career in the NBA, or you just want to be one and done 1 year with your dad?
Well, the other point I would think would be of concern, at least from my standpoint, is that what if what if LeBron, uh, we're now talking about the locker room, right? That the world is different in a professional sports locker room. Bronny comes in, all the team knows him. I mean, he's been, he's a little since he's a little kid, he's been out, out of the places there. But now he's taken a roster spot of a guy who could potentially help you make a playoff run. So what did we just do? We reduced our roster by a player to placate his father. That's not going to work, too well on that side of the, in the locker room area, where you have to have some solidarity. Do I think that they'll be rude or mean to Bronny James? No, but I would be stunned if they went out of their way to pass the ball to Bronny James, unless he's literally standing under the basket where a layup could be done.
Yeah, definitely, and that's great point to make there. He's going to get a lot of, and you don't think he's going to get a lot of hate necessarily, but I think he could get a lot of hate from these guys because that's a great point to make. You're taking up now a roster spot that maybe somebody else who's much better could have had. But we got to have you on, but we got to have you on the team just to make LeBron happy. And you got to remember, these are professional athletes in every sport. They have egos. It's a locker room of egos. And eventually, maybe they don't come out and say it right away, but the other players on the team will build resentment. And eventually those egos will come out. And that's when all of a sudden you get this disaster locker room where you find out after the season's over, oh, well, everybody hated each other and half the teams getting traded this offseason anyway. So, obviously they weren't going to win that series.
Yeah, and the other part to that equation is you've got, and we've seen this happen before. When Kevin Durant went to, the Warriors, right? You figure, all right, great, we get KD, he's a wonderful player, good guy. There were people in the locker room at Golden State for the first month or so not necessarily happy that KD gets in there, because from that standpoint, they're thinking, all right, we now have two scoring guys. We got Steph, we got KD. How do we keep them happy? There's not enough basketballs to keep those two guys happy. And so, the chemistry of the team was affected early on, and they began to build and do well. But this is happening with superstars, let alone kids you pull, out of college and have it. I mean, it's not like Bronny had a stellar 1 year at USC. So, I think his dad's putting him in a very precarious situation. If I'm Bronny, I'm going, you know what, Dad, you want to stay with the Lakers? Fine. I've decided I'm going back to SC and hopefully refine my game. Now, whether he does that or not, I have no idea. Just for the record, LeBron's dad, Jelly Bean, who played for Philadelphia, played for 5 years in Italy, which is where, for all intents and purposes, LeBron grew up. So playing overseas is not necessarily out of the question either for Bronny. Maybe LeBron looks at it and says, you know what, it'd be kind of fun if you go over and play in the in the international league over there and have some fun there. You'll learn a lot more than you would in the G League, and it'll be fun to see it. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to happen. Not necessarily soon, though. All right. Travis Kelce becomes the highest paid tight end in his new deal with the Chiefs. Let's see. Shohei Ohtani, Anthony Rizzo, and the Mariners ace Ben Verlander are measured players of the week. Let's see. Jamal Murray overcomes cap injury, scores 32 points. We already said that the Nuggets beat the Lakers to get rid of them. In hockey, Florida just rolls past Tampa Bay to move on to the next round. So there's a lot of things moving on here in this situation, and that's a good thing. Let's talk a little bit from your side on hockey about the what's going on in the Premier League.
Sorry, for did you say soccer?
Yeah, from Premier League.
Okay, yeah, sorry. It broke up a bit. I missed what you said. Yeah,
Sorry.
The Premier League, we're getting down. This is it. I believe there's four matches left. Let me double check the specifics on that. I just need to find my Premier League tab here.
It's got to be 3, 4, or I don't think it's much more than 4.
It's actually, you know what? Okay, see, this is why I checked. It's 4 for some teams, it's 3 for others, and then it's 5 for Chelsea.
Oh, game in the end, yeah.
But yeah, so it's going to be an interesting race here. Obviously, Arsenal has the 1-point lead right now, but Man City has the match in hand. Liverpool has pretty much fallen out of the race completely. They lost in the Merseyside Derby to Everton a week ago, 2-0. And then it didn't help. They followed it up with a midweek match against West Ham, which they drew 2-2. Or I'm not sure if it was a midweek match, but they drew 2-2 with West Ham. It might have been over the weekend, actually. And that was that was pretty much the dagger for Liverpool. They dropped another 2 points there, and they could still win the title, but it's really bleak for them. They have 3 matches left, and so same amount as Arsenal, and they're 5 points behind Arsenal. So they would need really both City and Arsenal to have a complete collapse here. Right now, Arsenal's got that 1-point lead. Obviously, if Man City wins out, they win the title. So Arsenal can't afford to lose any more matches here. It's going to be interesting because, like I said, Tottenham still has to play. Actually, Arsenal just beat Tottenham, but Tottenham still has to play Man City, and there's still some challenging matches left. So it's not just like Man City is going to walk over the last 4 here. But it's also interesting because, England might end up getting 5 Champions League spots. And if that's the case, then all of a sudden, Tottenham in 5th spot here is thrusted into Champions League instead of the Europa League spot they're currently in. And that's huge because then obviously, Man United, that puts them in a Europa League spot and onward down. But Tottenham's a bit of an interesting case here because let's say England only gets the 4 Champions League spots because nothing's for sure yet. But if they only get the 4 Champions League spots, Tottenham's 7 points behind Aston Villa in 4th place right now. But Tottenham has 2 matches in hand of Aston Villa. So if Tottenham were to win those 2 matches, they're actually only 1 point behind Villa. So they do have a chance to move into 4th place before the end of the season. assuming Villa doesn't win their last 3 matches. If they drop any points in any of those, Tottenham could win out and squeak into 4th place. So definitely it's going to be a fun title race between City and Arsenal down the stretch. That's for sure. It's like I said, Liverpool, it's very bleak for them. It's pretty much City and Arsenal now. But then, yeah, even with, the Champions League race, if the Premier League only gets those 4 spots, Tottenham and Aston Villa, they're going to be going neck and neck to the end of the season. It looks deceiving right now because of those 2 matches Tottenham hasn't played, but they got 15 points on the table still, where Aston Villa only has 9. So definitely this race is not over. And then even with with the Europa and Conference League spots and things like that, you got Man United with 54 points, Newcastle 53, West Ham 49, Chelsea 48, who's on fire all of a sudden, Bournemouth 48, Barcelona, as Sean likes to call them. All of a sudden, we kind of saw a flash of this last season, but now we've really started to see this improvement in Bournemouth this year. They're a team that, they had that hot streak during winter when they were taking advantage of everybody with the condensed schedule, but now they've gotten on another hot streak again. So they got a lot of young players there, Ryan Christie, Sinistera. They got some nasty players for sure. So this is a young, talented team that I think is going to be in the Premier League for a while. And Bournemouth, they might just be working their way up the table. They might be the new Brighton next year.
There you go. Absolutely going to be interesting. And, with just in some cases 3 and in some cases 4 games to play, it won't take long for the season to get over. And then find out through the transfer portal where things are going. So we'll see from that. By the way, just bouncing back real quick to the NFL. One of the big winners this past weekend was the Pittsburgh Steelers. They ended up doing something that is Amedeus staple. They built the defense. They rebuilt the defense. And they still ended up with a couple of offensive linemen that they desperately needed. Am I crazy to think that Russell Wilson, or maybe Justin Fields, but more likely Russell Wilson, with these tools that he's got, could keep the Steelers in a potential spot to challenge the Ravens and the Bengals in that division, given what's going on with the Raiders and the Bengals?
Well, absolutely. The Steelers, we saw them almost challenge the division last year playing quarterback roulette all season. So this is definitely a team. They lean on their defense, but yeah, if you give them some consistent offense, that's all it really is. Now they have 2 guys potentially who could bring you consistent offense. And look, don't look at what Russell Wilson did the last few years because he's a system quarterback, and the system, Hackett tried it, and so did Sean Payton. They tried to force something on him that doesn't fit his style of play, and look at how it turned out. So look, this Russell Wilson, he's not a bad quarterback. He's just a system quarterback. And frankly, I think he has a better coach in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin, who will, he'll design the system, he'll design the play calling to fit what he likes and what he needs, because Tomlin knows how to succeed in this league. So on a consistent basis as well, especially when you're given some of the cards he's been given at quarterback. So 100%. I don't know if they challenge the Ravens for the division, but they're a wild card team for sure. I would think.
Well, to your point, what's good for Pittsburgh is that both quarterbacks are, RPO guys, the run pass option. So what Russ can run, Justin can run. And so you don't really have to you can, obviously there's going to be some tweaking that Russ doesn't run as much now as he used to run, but he can. Justin does run more than he probably should, but he can be tweaked. So there are nuances to your point, but the nuances, the fact that you've got RPO offense certainly makes it very interesting as you move on into the season. So that was a good one. from that standpoint. Did anybody's draft kind of pop out to you, and you say these guys did really well?
Not a specific team. What popped out to me specifically with the draft is I know you were a bit shocked at the 6 quarterbacks getting taken in the first round, but here's the part that shocked me. Did you notice the first defenseman in the entire draft was number 15 overall?
Yeah.
There was not a single defender that went before 15. And then we wonder why the good teams are just going to be better this year because, we got guys like that I'm going to butcher his first name, Latu or whatever. Latu, who went number 15. Yeah, Latu went 15 overall, and he was the first defenseman pick. Imagine how much other defensive talent went after him to all those good teams lower in the first round. So, it does shock me that the Steelers.
He wasn't even an edge rusher. They got him down as an edge rusher. In college, under Chip Kelly, he was an inside linebacker. So, I don't know what they're going to do with him. I say that. Yeah, I say that because he's an incredibly talented athlete. So if they want to play him outside, they can play him outside. He can play outside. He just didn't play that position in Chip's defense. But it is going to be good. I will say that for me, given the fact that the Commanders traded so many players, they end up with a lot of draft choices. And they didn't miss on, I don't think, any of them. All those kids they drafted are kids who will play, and most of them will play soon. So I think they had a good draft. And Baker and the boys, they didn't have a bad draft. We talked about Pittsburgh not having a bad draft. I don't know how to grade Philadelphia because they did get defense because they need it. They got a couple of corners and safety. Again, they need it. But, it's hard for me to do that. Ezekiel's back in Dallas, so, he didn't leave town.
It's like the Cowboys are trying to do everything they can to not win a Super Bowl again.
Yeah. It's like, it's crazy.
Like you got rid of him because Pollard took the job, and now we're going to bring him back.
Yeah, I don't know what I mean. The only time I thought he was coming back is to be inducted into the Ring of Honor. I did not think he was going to have to actually play.
Or retire as a Cowboy, right? Do the little one-day contract. Let me get the hell out of here. Let me go back to the beach in Cabo where I was training all those years ago when I wanted my huge contract.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well just call Emmitt Smith up and see if he's got some time.
Well, you know what? There's a ton of ex-Cowboys who think they could still be in the league. Like Des Bryant is still looking for a team out there. You got, I know there's no Terrell Owens is still trying to convince the Cowboys I can play at 50. I'm in the best shape that I've ever been in my entire life. Which he's in great shape, but again, he's still a little more fragile at that age.
Well, let's put it this way: if you needed somebody to catch a pass, that'd be a guy. If you need to play a whole game and catch passes, that would not be a guy. So, could he run a couple of routes? Yeah, probably could.
Like if you're going to sign him as a Deshaun Jackson, right? You let him run the deep route a few times in the game. You never throw the ball. And then the one time he's not covered, you hit him for the 80-yard touchdown pass. And everybody's like, Deshaun Jackson's on this team? I didn't even know he was in the league.
Yeah, where'd he come from? So yeah, he's kind of like the OBJ, right? He'll be there first couple of weeks, everybody's eyeballs pop out. The last weeks, as they get closer to making the playoffs, he goes to, that you can't find him. He's in the witness relocation program. So, yeah, it's kind of a bizarre situation, to say the least. Let's see. NBA stuff. Denver looks like Denver. I mean, they look like they could once again be tough to beat in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of hard to gauge the NBA playoffs right now because let's be real, these round one series were absolute jokes. Like the
Right.
Lakers got their one token game that after losing 11 straight to the Nuggets just because we couldn't have them get swept again. Like we saw we saw how that worked out last night. And even some of these other teams, the Thunder swept, the Timberwolves swept. Those are the three best teams in the Western Conference. Like we knew they were going to be on to the next round, so it's hard to gauge when they just disposed of them so quickly. It's only the Clippers and the Mavericks which can't put a finger on for that second round right now.
Yeah, it's funny too because I'm around a lot of Knicks fans, and they're terrified that, oh my God, what happens if Philly beats us and then forces the seventh game, and we've been down this road before, and it's like, okay, boys, the last time they won a championship was back in 1969. But the Knicks won, and the last time the Rangers won, and they did away with the caps in 4 easy lessons. It was 1994. So it's been a while since the teams that call Madison Square Garden home have been in the winner's circle. So we'll have to see how that, if this year everybody's in a New York state of mind. We'll have to see how that goes. But a lot of stuff going on there. And tell you what, we are there any games this afternoon that we should be paying attention to on the soccer side?
Yeah, we got the Champions League semifinal first legs kicking off. We can touch on these. So the first semifinal, the first leg of the first semifinal is today. We have Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid at 3:00. So that'll be a very exciting one. Today's the first leg, and then I believe they play the second leg next week, and the winner moves on to the final. Which the final's always at a neutral site. I forget where it is this year, but it's probably somewhere in the Middle East. I believe they had I think they had the last one. Did they have it in Paris? Because I know they've been doing a lot of the Super Cups in Saudi Arabia. I'll have to check where the Champions League final is anyway. Don't quote me on anything yet. But then, tomorrow for the Champions League, we have, so again, the first leg of the second semifinal game. Borussia Dortmund is hosting the boys of PSG, our buddy Mbappe there. One last hurrah with Paris for the Champions League title. You asked me what I thought would be a shock, and I said if they ran the table, well, getting Dortmund instead of Real Madrid or Bayern is definitely the more favorable matchup in this semifinal. So who knows? Maybe we see PSG in the final after these 2 legs.
It's quite possible. All right, let's wrap things up here. We'll take a quick look at what's on television tonight. Obviously, ESPN has college baseball for reasons that I have no idea why. West Virginia, Pittsburgh. That's their college baseball game tonight. Over on TNT, it's Game 5. We talked about it earlier. 76ers at the Garden face the Knicks. That's a very important Game 5 at this point. On ESPN proper, it's 7. I had ESPN2 on baseball. ESPN proper, it's the Maple Leafs at Boston at TD Garden. That's a Game 5 game. That's puck drop at 7. Stanley Cup playoffs on TBS, streaming on Max. If necessary, New York Islanders, Carolina Hurricanes. That is a 7:30 game. CONCACAF Championship tonight at 9 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. Is it Pachuca and Club America? And then the late game, Phoenix and Minnesota. Wait a minute. Are they playing?
What, Phoenix, Minnesota? No. They
finished that series. Yeah,
that was most likely an if necessary game.
Yeah. Now, Game 5 of the Stanley Cup between Winnipeg, and Colorado being played at Winnipeg, and Nashville and Vancouver game 5. That game will be played in the Rogers Arena in Vancouver. So if you and obviously the whole slate of baseball, check your regional sports networks for the time and the place for that. NBC, real quick. NBC just put a bid in hopes of acing out the Warner Brothers Discovery Group, which we used to know as Turner, TNT, and TBS, for the NBA. It's quite possible that the deal will be smaller. The lion's share of the games look like they're going to ESPN, ABC, and also Amazon. So whoever gets that third package and even the potential of a fourth package, we'll see. But it'll be for up around $75 million per team. So, that's going to take a large checkbook. Meanwhile, taking a large checkbook, Amedeus, tell us about what we got to look forward to tonight in your picks in the show box.
Yes, of course. But before I do that, I just, I'm gonna leave the listeners with a nice little interesting fact here for the NHL and the NBA tonight. Of all the 7 games, only one of the series of these 7 tonight in both sports is guaranteed another game after tonight, because the Cavaliers Magic are tied 2-2. That is the only series. Every other series that plays tonight is 3-1 with a chance to be ended. So definitely some exciting stuff there. But on to the good stuff. Make sure you check out my premium picks at bigal.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. The links are in the description below. I'm coming off a nice 6-2 day, including a 5-1 day on the pitch. I've been absolutely crushing the pitch lately. I'm up close to 25 units over the last week and a half or so across all leagues, so absolutely crushing it. You can get my Champions League total of the month that starts at 3:00 on this Bayern Real Madrid game. I went 2-0 in the last round of the Champions League. I had Bayern Munich at the plus 130 and Dortmund at the plus 125. So some nice cashes there. Go get today's winner. I'm a perfect 4-0 with my last 4 10-star totals in the Champions League. So go check that out. And that's not all my action on the pitch. I got a play up in the Argentina Copa de la Liga Profesional for the semifinal later tonight. I also have a play on that CONCACAF Champions Cup game between Pachuca Club America, as well as a Copa de Brazil match in soccer. And if you're looking for that, once all that wins and you're looking for that overnight action, I got a nice 5 a.m. Australian play that you can go get on the pitch for 5 a.m. tomorrow. So make sure you check that out. And then I also have 3 plays in the NBA tonight, 1 on each game. If you want to know who I think is going to, win tonight's games, go check that out. I was on the Thunder last night. I'm coming off a 1-0 NBA day. So make sure you check all that out.
There you go. And Noel Martin, I should say, sorry. Ask us how we're doing. Noel, we're fine. Thank you very much for asking. Hope you're hope you are as well as well. Okay, that one didn't come out right, but hey, it's the thought that counts. All right, buddy. Good to have you back. We will be back around the same time tomorrow. It's around 2:05-ish. And we'll have plenty to talk about. So thank you for joining us. And we are out of here for today. Take care, everybody. Hold it.